I will introduce myself. Allow myself to introduce myself. So I'm Corey Pressman, hello. I'm Corey Pressman, hello. All right, very good. So I want to talk to you today about innovation and entrepreneurship and introduce a framework for doing so and folding that kind of stuff into your life and into your practice. And it's also this framework that's being used to organize the conference today to a large extent. And the framework is called something that already engenders the opposites that we're here to embrace. And it's called the... Exactly. How did you know? It's called the Alchemy. Wait, I have a pointer. The Alchemy of Wasted Time. And the Alchemy of Wasted Time grows out of a desire basically to rein in a situation that we have. We're already living in this science fiction future. Do you know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm talking about? We're living in this future that's been anticipated for a long time. You know, there's technologies that showed up in science fiction as far back as the 19th century, anticipating the moment that we're living in. And so it's kind of this special opportunity that we have to not just live in the science fiction future, but to build it ourselves. Now, a lot of science fiction engenders this dystopian future, and I think I'm preaching to the choir and the workforce to prevent that from happening. And so that's really where this is coming from. And there's a great paper written by a scholar named Norman Cousins. He wrote in 1966, under 1,000 days after the Beatles landed at JFK, he wrote a paper called The Poet and the Computer, in which he pretty much states that there's this dystopian potential, that the computers will be everywhere. But if we get a poet in the room with a technologist, then maybe we can build human-centered tools. Maybe we can build human-centered tools. Maybe we can build human-centered tools. Rather than living in the robot's future and have us fit into it, wait, hold on, my phone's ringing. We can instead build a human future that the technology lives in. And so the Alchemy of Wasted Time is a method, basically, of doing that. And it combines your days into two different activities. This one here, whoops, go back, go forward. This one here is searching for understanding. We spend a portion of our time searching for understanding, do we not? Yes, we do. And then there's a portion of our time we spend applying what we understand. And if you do that, you create a beautiful little matrix that divides your life up into quadrants, and this conference up into quadrants, and potentially your workplace up into quadrants. This quadrant here is where you're searching for understanding and not really worrying about its application at all. Let's call that the ponder quadrant. Are you familiar with this activity in your lives? This is where you're reading, maybe not enough though, eh? I'm giving you permission now. A quarter of your time needs to be spent in the ponder quadrant, reading the poetry, reading the literature, the history, the research behind whatever it is you're trying to do, with no real intention of how you're going to apply it. It's unapplied. It's just pondering for pondering's sake. One of my favorite poets, Mary Ruefle, says, "I'd rather wonder than know." Yeah, man, that's what I'm talking about. Just wondering to wonder. But then, of course, there's this other quadrant where you're applying the stuff you've just been jamming on. You've been searching for understanding, and now you can play with the ideas. And I like to call this the play quadrant. And it's in this quadrant where I'd love to see you, I'm giving you permission to please fold into your lives and into your work and into your work culture even, experimentation. Low fidelity prototypes. I like to call it prototyping by the pound. Come up with as many ideas as you can. Run workshops this way. Get all the ideas out there. Create a database of dreams. You don't know what's going to be useful or when. Today's noise is tomorrow's music. Are you with me? Yeah, so you should spend some of your time doing this. How much of your time? A whole lot, I think. A quarter, right? I like to spend all my time doing that, so if anyone wants to donate to that lifestyle for me, I'm there. And then there's this. This is actually the secret sauce. This is the quadrant where it all comes together, where you're not searching for understanding and you're not applying anything. And what happens here? It's kind of this empty quadrant, but that empty quadrant is filled with the real stuff right here. This is where you're daydreaming, where you're just letting your mind wander, and hopefully in a positive way. You can do some dysphoric mind wandering. Avoid that. Rather, this is where you're just incubating ideas, synthesizing what you've been thinking about. You've been pondering, you've been playing with the ideas. Now give yourself some room. Make that empty space in the vessel, that empty space in the vessel, that empty space in the of your lives and your minds. Like in the Tao Te Ching, shape clay into a vessel. It is the space within that makes it useful. Yes. says, therefore profit comes from what is there, usefulness comes from what is not there. Yeah, so I want to create those spaces. The original eureka moment happened where? In a bathtub. Yeah? But I don't want you just to rely on us innovating a elevated impactful future by just hopefully everyone in this room takes enough showers between now and the end of time. Rather, I want you to get intentional about this and move it into your lives so that the times when you're just applying things and not searching for understanding change. It's not just work anymore. It becomes practice. You become practitioners of elevating impact. Not just workers at it, but practitioners for it. Are you with me? Are you with me? Okay. Woo. So if you go around all of these things, then that's what you get. You get pondering and playing and daydreaming and practice. And I love fake equations because I'm an anthropologist and there was no math. So now I feel like it's reckless abandon with math. I can do whatever I want. If you take your ponder quadrant and your play quadrant and your practice quadrant and hold that to the power of your daydream quadrant, then you get that applied understanding. Remember the applied? Understanding, which is the symbol for because this is the alchemy of wasted time. Yes. Yes. So exciting. But it sounds intuitive, right? All right. You can't do that to me. And so that's what we're doing here. And this is basically a framework that gives you permission to add these things into your lives. I don't think it's news to anyone that, hey, you should read more, play with ideas, and daydream every now and then. That sounds like something your physician should already be telling you. Rather, I want you to fold this into your work lives and fold it into your daily lives and get really intentional about it. And that's why at Fiction we invented this thing called the Alchemy of Wasted Time to actually let you organize workspaces and events around it. And this event is organized around it. The Ponder Quadrant gives us our speaker resources library, the Scout book itself, ponder each other in a safe and defensive manner. But everyone here has got indwelling knowledge that you can benefit from. The Play Quadrant informs the campfire tables downstairs with little fires on them where you can speak to each other and learn more and play with ideas. I'll be down there at a table talking about the Alchemy of Wasted Time. Come hang out and let's play. There's the Scout book. There are Alchemy of Wasted Time tattoos being distributed here. Because it's Portland. Pitch Fest, right? We were going to do mustaches, but the gold mustache didn't look right. Pitch Fest is also play. The Daydream Quadrant gives us the choir. Yay. Yay, art gives us the dance. Yay, art gives us the untasked task room upstairs, which is an interactive textile sculpture that I encourage you to go play with and just go in there and space out. There's some beautiful music, a little lights, it gets dark. Go in there to whisper to the people next to you, play with the textiles, and let those aha moments happen. Yes. And then just micro dream. I put that on there. I don't know why I like it. Micro dreams, TM. Over the course of the day, let yourself space out. Let it happen. And then the practice quadrant, we just talk about how we do what we do. That's the practitioner panels and the keynotes. And that's how all of this comes together. And I think if we do this right, should we do this right, we can engender another interesting opposite, that kind of idea of all the, you understand, your social entrepreneurs, the humility it takes to do that, how small you have to make yourself to have an impact in the world, and all that that requires. But if we do it right, something amazing happens. We can become famous, which sounds like an opposite. But I don't mean famous in the way that you might be thinking, or I was going to use like some rock star that's probably irrelevant to most people here. But I mean famous in the way that Naomi Shihab Nye means famous in her poem Famous. May I read this to you? May I? You got to ask before doing it. The river is famous to the fish. The loud voice is famous to silence, which knew it would inherit the earth before anybody said so. The cat sleeping on the fence is famous to the birds watching him from the birdhouse. The tear is famous briefly to the cheek. The idea you carry close to your bosom is famous to your bosom. The boot is famous to the earth, more famous than the dress shoe, which is famous only to floors. The bent photograph is famous to the one who carries it, and not at all famous to the one who is pictured. I want to be famous to shuffling men who smile while crossing streets, sticky children in grocery lines, famous as the one who smiled back. I want to be famous in the way a pulley is famous, or a buttonhole, not because it did anything spectacular, but because it never forgot what it could do. So don't forget what you can do. Thank you. Thank you.